Hey everyone, today we're going to learn a simple version of a great Christmas song, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. We'll go through the chords one by one so that we're familiar and comfortable playing them, and then move into how the song is played. Now the first thing you want to do before you start playing guitar is to be sure that your guitar is in tune. Now I suggest using a digital tuner so that you can be sure that you're in perfect tuning. This song is going to be played in standard tuning, and another great thing that you want to do before you start playing guitar is to be sure to cut your fingernails nice and short. What this will do is it will allow you to press down onto the strings and avoid any unnecessary buzzing or muting. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to number our fingers so that when I explain to you how to play a chord and where to place your fingers, you'll know exactly what I mean. Finger number 1 is going to be our index finger. Finger number 2 is our middle finger. Finger number 3, your ring finger. And then finger number 4 is going to be your pinky. Okay? Now we're going to move into the first chord used in the song. So Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer uses 5 different chords. We're going to use a G. We're going to use a D. We're going to use a C, an E minor, and an A. Now don't panic, because we're going to go into those in detail right now, starting with the G chord.
The next chord, G, uses only 3 fingers. You can use whichever 3 fingers is most comfortable for you to complete the chord.
Okay, so the G chord uses fingers number 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to take finger number 2, we're going to place it on to the 2nd fret of the A string, right here. Finger number 3 is going to be placed down here onto the 3rd fret of the big E string. And then finger number 4 is going to come down here onto the 3rd fret of the high E. Okay? And that is our G chord. The next chord is a D chord.
The next chord, D, uses only 3 fingers.
Now the D chord uses fingers number 1, 2, and 3. We don't use finger number 4 in this. Finger number 1 is going to be placed onto the 2nd fret of the G string. Finger number 2 is going to come down here below it onto the high E string on the 2nd fret. And then finger number 3 is going to come down here onto the B string on the 3rd fret, right in between our fingers number 1 and 2. And that's our D. The next one we're going to learn is a C.
The next chord is a C chord. The C chord uses 3 fingers.
So the C chord as well uses fingers number 1, 2, and 3. We're going to take finger number 1. It's going to be placed down here onto the B string, on the 1st fret. Finger number 2 is going to come down here onto the 2nd fret of the D string. Then finger number 3 is going to come down here onto the 3rd fret of the A string. And that's our C chord. The next one's the E minor.
The next chord, E minor, is only using 2 fingers. Whichever 2 fingers is most comfortable for you is what you should use.
So for this one we're going to use the E minor using fingers number 1 and 2, which means number 1 finger goes onto the 2nd fret of the A string. Finger number 2 comes right below it onto the 2nd fret of the D string. Then we strum all the strings. That's our E. One more chord left, and it's the A chord.
The A chord uses 3 fingers, as seen in the photo.
So the A chord can be played with different fingers in different ways. The way I teach it and the way I play it uses fingers number 2, 3, and 4. So what I do is I put them all next to each other, like so. So finger number 2 is going to go here on the 2nd fret of the D string. Then I'm going to slide it up just there so I can get these other two fingers in the bottom here. So finger number 3 goes on the 2nd fret of the G string, and then our finger number 4 comes right below it onto the 2nd fret of the B string. And if they're all down, it should sound like so. Okay? Now let's move into the verse in the song. Okay, so Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is pretty simple to play. For the verse, it's just going to be 2 chords. It's going to be the G and a D. Now, the hard part is remembering when to change. And you kind of have to listen to the words, and I figured it out. For each change, when we change from the G, when we hit the D, it's when he says nose. So Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer had a very shiny nose, and that's when you switch. And then the next one is, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows. When he says glows, then you switch back to the G. So I'll play it in regular time, so you can know exactly what it sounds like, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do it nice and slow together. Here it goes. play that nice and slow together. All it is a G chord, then a D chord, then back to the G chord, and back to the D chord, and then one more time back to the G. Okay? Let's play it nice and slow together. Now, if you can imagine the words in your head, then you'll know when to switch. If not, just listen to me and I'll prompt you when to switch, okay? So here you go on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. To the D. Back to the G. Back to the D. Back to the G. Okay. Now what we're going to do, so that you know how to switch, is I'm going to talk the lyrics quickly here, just so you know when we're changing. So when he says nose, glows, names, and games, it's right on the rhyme is when he switches. So I'll start on the G, and I'll just go through it quickly here so you understand. So it's Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose. Okay? And it's the same way going back. Right when he says nose and then glows on the next line is when we switch back to the G. And he says all of the other reindeers used to laugh and call him names, and that's when we switch from the G back to the D. Okay? Now have a listen to the song and you'll hear the changes. Okay? But for now we're going to go into the next part. Okay, so the next part has 3 different chords. We're going to use the C now, and he goes to a G, then a D, and back to a G. Now in regular time, and to get an idea of how the lyrics go with this, it goes like this. Then one stormy Christmas night, Santa came to say. Okay? Now in regular time it would sound like this, playing. Okay? Let's play that nice and slow together. So again it's a C, G, D, and back to a G. On the count of 3, here we go. 1, 2, 3. G, D, back to the G. Okay, perfect. And the next part, he goes back to the D, then an E minor, first time you use it, and then there's a quick change from the E minor to an A, and then to a D. Now in regular time it'll sound like this. Okay, now to get an idea of where that's coming from is Rudolph with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Just so you know when to change, okay? So it's, he stays on the D. Okay? Now let's play that nice and slow together. Okay? So we start on the D, we stay on the D, stay on the D, stay on the D, stay on the D, and then we switch to the E minor, then a quick switch to the A, and then a quick switch to the D. Now keep this in mind, guys. This is where a little strategic placement of your fingers comes in. Now the reason we're using fingers number 1 and 2 on our E chord, so when we switch to our A, we lift this finger up, our finger number 2 stays there, because that's where it's supposed to be. So E, lift, and then we put these 2 fingers down to form the A. So that's a little hint so that you can strategize where you place your fingers for which chord, so that you know the next chord that's coming up you move as little fingers as possible. Okay? Okay, so nice and slow, and on the count of 3 we'll go through this. So we're going to do a D, we're going to stand that a little bit, and then switch to the E, A, D. Okay, now that's going to be a quick switch, so that's going to be the hardest part of the song. Okay, so here we go, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. To the E minor, to the A, to the D. Okay? One more time. 1, 2, 3. To the E minor, to the A, and to the D. Okay? So that whole line, when we start on the C, G, D, G, okay? It should sound like this, just so you know how those pieces stick together, okay? Okay, so the very last part is exactly like the first part. All it encompasses is a G, a D, and then back to a G. That's the end of the song. It's very simple, exactly like the first part. And when he says glee, you switch from the G to the D, then you're staying on the D. And then when he says, right at the end of the song, the very last word, down in history, that's when you switch back to the G. One strum on the G, then you're done. So I'll do it right now in regular time, and then we're going to play it one more time together, okay? So here we go. Glee. History. Get it? So glee, history. Alright? So let's play that once together, and then we'll be all done. So, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. To the D. Stay on the D, keep going. We'll go down in history. Great job, guys. Hey everyone, great job learning Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. If you enjoyed this video and it helped you, don't forget to check out the rest of our videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Okay, thanks again for watching, guys. Have a good one.